That's perfect.
All right. Welcome to Bare Bones Banter with the Gaster Girls. Our guest today is Jesse. I can't say your last name.
Putkoski.
Putkoski. It seems like that was pretty simple. I should have given it a try.
That's all
Definitely
right.
should have given it a try. Jesse is I'm going to read here, AFSP Western Pennsylvania Chapter Area Director. So AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So welcome, Jesse. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yay, welcome,
Christine
Jesse.
is also
Can I?
here. Okay. I just wanted to make sure they
Can,
knew you were here.
yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Jesse? Can I tell you what I've been doing to your last name since we've been talking? I've been changing it into Kapowski, like Kelly Kapowski on Saved by
Yeah,
the Bell.
it's okay.
Oh,
It's not
really?
even
What's her
close.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
it.
The ski. You got the ski part. You got the
What was her
ski.
name?
I don't know what her name was, but I like Kapow. Like I thought that's what you meant, like Kapow, like right up in your face, Kapowski. I don't know. Definitely
Well, what
not.
Yeah.
was her name? I don't even know
Well,
now.
now I have to carry on while I Google the Kelly's last name on Saved by the Bell.
Maybe
I
it
thought
was
I think that
Kapow.
sounded.
You're probably right.
I
I'm
feel
wrong.
I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of Saved by the Bell,
I'm not sure what that
but
says about
that's not
you.
that's not why we're here.
Correct. Correct.
It is. It's Kapowski. Kelly
Ah,
Kapowski,
well done, Christine. Well done. Well done.
You
Well
had
played
it.
done.
played by
All right.
actress Tiffany Amber Thiessen, because that was going to be
Yes.
the next thing I had to Google.
The grown up version of her is in White Collar on USA. Have you watched that? Have either of you watched that?
I haven't, but she also has her own cookbook and does a lot of videos about how to cook things. And she
Ooh.
looks freaking fabulous. I'll say that.
I think she
So
looks better now than she did in Saved by the Bell.
Well,
yeah, I
Zach
agree.
Zach wasn't
She looks.
going to pick a loser.
You are
Neither was
correct.
AC Slater.
Oh, don't
AC
even get me
Slater.
started.
Oh man.
Good
Woo.
old
Now
Mario Lopez.
I need to go back and watch some of that. We'll see if that's on
Well, I
Netflix.
mean,
I don't know if it's on Netflix. They used to play it on USA as like reruns, but I'm not sure what they do anymore. So,
We'll
and
have to check it out.
Haley Joel Osment used to be on, not Haley Joel Osment, what's her name? She was in Pollyanna and The Parent Trap, used to be
oh,
on it.
that was just a
Yeah,
great show. Coming home from school, throwing
excellent.
that on, knowing your parents weren't going to be home for another 10 hours.
What house did you
Exactly.
live in?
Exactly.
Listen, you went to the neighbor. I got to stay home by myself.
Things that I do not remember. Things I do not remember from growing up. All right,
Let's get
Jesse,
on with it.
we do have you here for a reason, so we should probably actually let you talk instead of talking about our loss of childhood memories. So
It was Haley Mills. I had to look it up. It was Haley Mills who
Haley
was in Saved by the
Mills.
Bell and The Parent Trap and Pollyanna. Haley Mills. I had the first name right.
I
So
do appreciate that you're already into this. This is what we do throughout the whole podcast. We talk about random shit, and then one of us has to look something up. So I feel like you're fitting in perfectly. So that's
great.
awesome. Perfect.
Now we can get back on track.
So now let's move back on track. I do have some questions that, of course, I've already shared with you. So we'll get into those. And of course, I'd like it to be the name of it is Bare Bones Banter. So I'd like it to be just open, just discussion about the foundation, about you, just to catch our listeners up. Can you tell us what is American Foundation Suicide Prevention?
So it's a nonprofit organization. It's a national organization with chapters in all 50 states, and we also have one in Puerto Rico. But it is a voluntary health organization, and it gives people a way to a nationwide community that kind of comes together to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. And that's our mission, is to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. And we do it in a lot of different ways. And we connect with people who've experienced a loss, as well as people who have had lived experience or have lived experience. So anyone who's struggled with suicidal ideation or has possibly made a suicide attempt. So we do a lot of things out in our community.
And you mentioned volunteer. I know when we had first met you, you mentioned that everything's a volunteer basis. That I think that you're one of few that would be in a paid role in the foundation, correct?
Correct. So we have a national office with people who are employed. And then I am the chapter staff person. So I am the only paid employee for our chapter. Everything else is done at the chapter level by volunteers. Each chapter has one or two, maybe three staff people, depending on which chapter you're looking at. And then the work is done by a volunteer board, a working board. And then we have volunteers underneath them as well.
Okay, that's awesome. I know that's pretty impressive because being at the walk recently, just seeing the amount of volunteers there and
Yeah,
knowing that that walk was just for your chapter, correct?
that's correct. Yeah, that was just for the Western PA chapter. Hold on, my dog's about to eat cat food. Hold on.
Go ahead.
That's
Okay.
great.
Yes,
So I was
yes.
told not to let her eat cat food. So I had to move her away from the cat food. All right, I'm back.
I
Yeah, so
feel like you should join us for every episode now because you've done several
Right.
things thus far that we do as we record. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, so the walk where I met you, that was the Pittsburgh walk, and it is the largest out of the darkness walk that we have in Western PA. And it brings in a lot of the money that allows us to do the work that we do as a chapter. We also have four other community walks that take place in other parts of Western PA that are absolutely fantastic. There's one in Cambria County that happened the weekend after the Pittsburgh walk. There's one in Erie that happened on the 22nd. There was one just this past weekend in Washington County. And then our final one is coming up in Lawrence County on October 5th in Newcastle. So all of those events help us to raise funds to continue the work that we do as an organization.
Wow, that's great. You're doing a lot of walking.
I don't participate. I don't actually walk the walks, but I do walk around a lot during the walks. So I think I do
Right.
put in the miles anyway.
Yeah, I saw you a bit at the Pittsburgh walk, and I know that you were definitely putting in some miles.
Getting the
What,
steps in. Hey, Sarah, can I ask a question?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Of
It
course.
might be one you already have written down, but Jesse, what kind of things do you use that money for? What kind of outreach and programs do you guys have? I'm sorry, that was likely a question Sarah was going to ask you, and I have a control problem.
It goes along with the four pillars, which I know we were going to talk about, but it feeds into that. So we focus on core strategies or our four pillars, which is funding scientific research, which AFSP is actually the largest private funder of scientific research for suicide prevention in the United States. We do education. So at the chapter level, we go out and educate the public about mental health and suicide prevention. We also do advocacy work. We connect with our legislators and representatives, both statewide and nationwide federally, to talk about better funding, better resources, specifically around 988, things that they should be paying attention to, bills that they should be passing, maybe ones that they should be steering clear of. That would probably, if they were enacted, maybe be harmful for certain communities and their mental health. We also provide support for survivors of suicide loss and those affected by suicide. And that's through other programs that we have as well. And we try to reach as many people in the population within the 25 counties as possible. And we actually have been increasing our reach, which is great. So that's what the funds help us to do.
Awesome. Christine, do you have other questions that you would like to throw in? Or do we want to just take our turn? I'll go next, then you go next.
You go ahead. You have a nice outline, and I'm ruining it.
No, you're not. That was perfect. It was one of the questions, but they're questions we want to get to, so it's fine. It doesn't matter the way that we go. We touched on the four
Okay, cool.
pillars, which is what I had in there. And then next, Jesse, and I know I've said in emails and whatnot, this is part where you share with us whatever you're comfortable sharing with us, but we'd like to know a little bit of your personal background and what really drew you to the foundation.
My father, Gary, he died by suicide September 21st of 2010. And I was living in Richmond, Virginia at the time. I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up in O'Hara Township. I moved down to Virginia for work. I was teaching there. And that's whenever we got the call saying that he had passed away. And I moved back up to Pittsburgh the following June. It actually took me a little bit of time to find the foundation. It was pretty random, actually. I was going through old Facebook messages thinking that there was one in there from my dad. And I was just bored one night looking up Facebook messages, and I saw an old one from someone I was friends with on Facebook asking for donations for the foundation. And I was like, what a jerk am I that I ignored this whenever she sent it, because now I've been impacted by it and I should pay attention to these things. So I ended up looking it up. found the local chapter and found a local walk. And my sister and a few friends of ours went out to it. It was actually at Cal U, which is, I know it's Penn West, California, but Cal U. And we didn't know about the Pittsburgh walk at that point. Somehow that one didn't pop up on the search, but we ended up at this smaller walk, and we raised a bunch of money for it, and we came together and walked that day. And then the following year, we started going to the Pittsburgh walk, and I decided to try volunteering. I signed up to become a volunteer for the chapter, was elected to the board, and then the staff position became available. So I applied, and I've been the area director since 2019. So it was a weird journey to have gone through such a tragic experience and find myself here. I said this at the walk, Sarah. I began this, my connection to this cause started because of I lost my dad. And then I've met so many amazing people along the way, volunteers, community partners, the people who we go out and speak with, students, faculty, just so many great people out there doing this work, other loss survivors, connecting with them. My connection has changed. It's not just because of the loss. It's not because, and I said this at the walk, where this journey began because of heartbreak and love. It's continued because along this path, I've found hope, healing, strength, friendship, and even more love, because we all come together at these events, not because the love has been lost, but because it has continued, because the people who we've lost, we love them. We will continue to love them, and we want to honor them and be together in this journey of fighting suicide and knowing that we're standing there together, not alone, in what we've experienced. So it's been a hard road, but it's been a fulfilling one. So it's been good. I would like to have him back, but considering everything that's happened, the people will do with the loss, and what I've done with the loss has helped people, and I know that. So,
and that's what I was going to say. I ask you more. How important do you think the foundation and your involvement and everything has been to your healing?
It's been very important. It's been great, especially coming into it as a volunteer, getting to meet other volunteers who have gone through this. It creates almost like a camaraderie and a little bit of a family. Any loss by any means is very tragic, but this is a very specific kind of loss. And the emotions and the feelings and the aftermath that takes place after this kind of loss is very different. To have a community of people to stand with you and work through it together is very healing, and it does provide a lot of strength.
It's awesome. Thank you guys for what you do. I'll talk more later about our experience with the walk this year, because it was it was a good experience, but I'd like to save that and get into that a little bit later. Let me look. Educational programs that you guys do. So you guys get out into the community with the educational programs. What types of places are you guys reaching out to and going to? And are those places that are reaching out to you? Do you guys reach out to them? How exactly do you guys do the educational programs?
So we will go anywhere. We'll do whatever we can. We go into schools, and because we have programs specific for middle school and high school students. We go out into just the community at large as well. We also have programs for school personnel and for parents too. And we want to make sure that we're getting that information out there, and the warning signs and risk factors, any sort of help that we can provide, just so people know where resources exist and who to turn to if something's going on, how to have conversations with people if you're worried about them, if you're worried about yourself, and where to start with all of those things. And when it comes to how we get into these places, we go to a lot of tabling events in the community. So community partners will invite us to come and set up a resource table, and we meet people that way, where they take our information or give us their information and say that they are interested in having us come in and do a presentation. So it's word of mouth. A lot of connections that we have through our local task forces help us get connected to these people and to the communities and the schools. So it's a lot of them reaching out to us as well. So it goes both ways. It just depends on how they want to do it. We need to make sure, especially with the school system, that they're okay with us coming in. So there's a little bit of work, but all of the schools we've done the programs in have just been so grateful. It's been a really great time getting in there and talking with the students. Students thank us for coming. And the ones that we go out and do in the community, same thing. I've done the presentation, I don't know how many times. And sometimes, a lot of times they actually do. Someone that says like, I didn't know any of this. These are things I was unaware of, things to look out for. And it actually gets them thinking sometimes about maybe someone who is close to them who is maybe exhibiting any signs that they should be paying attention to, and maybe starting that conversation. They always say it doesn't matter how big of an audience we have. If we connect with or help one person, then we've done our job.
For sure. When it comes to parents, what type of, like when you go into the schools, so you have middle school, high schools that you go to, do you find that, I don't know if you get feedback from parents, do you find that, do parents have to agree to let the kids?
So we recommend to the school that if they're having us come in, whether it's a small classroom presentation or a larger presentation to an assembly, we often recommend to the school to let parents know that we are coming in to do the presentation, even though that one specifically doesn't focus on suicide. It talks more about mental health and how to take care of your mental health, how mental health and physical health overlap, and how to notice when things are feeling right and those signs to look out for. And if a friend of yours is saying certain things or acting a certain way, what should you do? But we do recommend that they let the parents know. And then if the parent would like to opt their child out of the presentation, then that they have that ability. So we want to be mindful of what's going on in their lives and their comfort level too.
But I think that's
Good.
one of the a big problem we face is parents not having the right knowledge, and the parents throwing their head into the sand and ignoring it. How do we get this word out to parents? I'm assuming just by what you're doing. Is there anything extra that you do that we try to get more information into the hands of parents?
Whenever things happen with our kids, it's scary to think that's what's going on in their lives and how the best way to deal with it. So it's understandable that some parents are hesitant to say anything and take some action because maybe, like you said, they're not quite sure of what to do, how to handle it, and where they can find that help and that support. And a lot of times whenever we get into, we have to talk to the parents, it's because we've been asked to, and when we have a presentation specifically for them, again, things to look out for, ways to talk to your child if these things are happening, or what happens if a friend of theirs is going through something and you notice it. So a bunch of different ways to educate the parents about how to connect with their kids and other kids as well, and to get help. But it is, like you said, about getting the word out about the presentation and about what we do. And that's what we've been trying to do. We've gotten into a lot of places, but we're still trying to do more. And it helps whenever, again, we have those connections with our community partners who know what it is that we're doing and know the programs that we have, and just maintaining those relationships so that way they know that we're a resource and we're here, and we do all of our programs at no cost. So that's a great thing that we want to go out there and make sure people know about this, and we don't want to charge people for this knowledge. And that's fantastic. So that's what makes our relationships with the community partners and the task forces so important, is that they know that we do these things. And whenever somebody comes to them and says, hey, we have this group or that group and they want a presentation, we want them to come to you. And we want to know we're all working towards the same goal, right? We want to work together. So we want to make sure that we're doing the work together. And that's what's important.
No, I love that. The parent of somebody who feels like they should have been more aware, they should have seen more things. Like I wish that I would have had I wish something that I was involved with would have had a program like that. So I would have been able to have those conversations with Olivia. And Jesse, I don't know if you remember, but my daughter attempted suicide when she was 14. And I didn't have any idea what to do. I didn't have any idea what to talk to her about. And having resources where at least I would have been able to remember, oh, I know how to have this conversation with her. I know the available the places where we can maybe get her some help and where to go from that. That would have been amazing. Yeah, so I would just throw in there if anybody who's listening is involved with it with an organization where we would have the opportunity to get more information out there to parents to take advantage of that. I'm sure we'll have the Jesse's information, and Sarah, I'm sure this is probably someplace later, but yeah, I would just encourage organizations to give Jesse a platform and a place to talk. Our kids are involved in so many things and so many activities, and there's so many things that we hear, that we see, that we get from those organizations. And maybe some information that kind of helps support mental health for our kids is something that we should see more on a routine basis. Yeah, I don't think that we can talk about it enough, and I don't think that we could prepare parents to have those conversations. Sarah and I talk about it all the time. I know exactly what to do if Olivia breaks her arm. I knew exactly what to do or where to go when she needed stitches. Like, I knew the difference between urgent care and, but I had no idea what to do when it was really clear that she needed some help with her mental health, even before her attempt.
And that's what's hard is that people don't know where to turn, don't know the right people to talk to. And like you said, like educating people on how to have those conversations. I didn't know how to talk to my dad. I was the kid, but I did not know how to talk to him. We knew that there was stuff going on with him. He talked to us about it, and we knew the things that he thought and what we saw the deterioration, but we didn't know how to have a helpful conversation with him, where to point him, what direction to point him to get help. And we were hearing things from him. I'm okay. I'm not going to do that to you guys, that kind of thing. We were hearing, these were the things that we were hearing. And we were like, oh, okay, you're saying this stuff, so we're going to believe you, when we should have been taking more action. And we were uneducated and we were young and didn't really know how, again, have those healthy, helpful sorts of conversations and really listen to what he was saying. Because that's one of the things that we talk about. Listen with the intention to understand, not to fix. And I know especially a lot of people, parents, anyone, when we see something going on with somebody we love, we want to fix it. We don't want to just be like, so we want to, we're solution based people. And that's what we really want to be able to do. But when the actual help is just to listen and hear what they're saying and then figure out what the next steps are and with them. And I didn't know how to do that at all. And I don't blame myself for that because I wasn't educated about it and I didn't know, but I wish I had, because like you said, those conversations weren't happening. This wasn't something that we were used to experiencing. And no one sits you down and says, okay, if this happens, this is what you do. This is what you say. And not like you said, with a broken arm, there's a broken arm, you go to the doctor. If you have the flu, you take this medicine. That's not how this works. And we didn't know how it worked.
Going back to the programs and whatnot in schools and wherever, I just, as a parent, always come back to the schools. Do you have schools that you partner with on a regular basis that you're doing these events or presentations or whatever, however you want to call them? Do you have schools that you do like on a repeated basis every year, or is it constantly changing?
We have ones that reach out to us every year to come in and do it with their health classes for their ninth graders. Alderdice is one of them, and North Hills High School is one of them. We just got through a really big, it was in the spring, but a really big presentation kind of week over 2 weeks with Pine Richland, which was fantastic because we've been partnering with them for a few years on other things, but never had actually done the presentation. But then we finally got to do the presentation. We go out to Lincoln Junior Senior High School in Elwood City every year as well. And there are a few others that I know I'm forgetting, but they definitely have us come in on a yearly basis to get this information to the middle school students and then the high school freshmen. And it's great that they find such value in what we're doing that they want us to come back.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say as a parent, I would like to know if you've gone into my son's school, and if not, how do I help as a parent get you connected to the school?
So you can, if you have any connections at the school, guidance counselor specifically, principal, you just put them in touch with us if they're open to having the program in the school. We work with them to schedule a time. We've done it, like I said, assembly style. We've done it in small classroom settings. So it's however they feel comfortable having us present the information. We do always suggest, especially in a larger setting, having the guidance counselors present, and even a smaller setting, having them available. So that way, if anybody needs to talk or step out and have a conversation, that they have that. But it is about getting connected, like I said, the counseling office or the principal, and just getting those conversations started with us.
Okay. Awesome. I think I'll do that. Something
Yay.
you said when you were talking about Pine Richland, you said that you partnered with them with other stuff. What's the other stuff that you partner with them for?
So Pine Richland has, I'm blanking on it. And I don't know why, because Leslie is fantastic and she's who we work with there. But they have a student organization that every year does, and I'm going to look it up because I want to make sure that I know it. It's their peer-to-peer group that focuses specifically on helping each other out, obviously peer-to-peer and mental health. And each year they host a color run for us. Their school had experienced a few losses years ago, and that's when they found us, and they do a color run that raises money for the organization. So we go to the color run and give out resources and a bunch of things for the kids. And then we've been working with them to get the program into the school. And like I said, this past spring we did. So we were providing them with just handouts and resources for a long time. But then to actually be able to go in and do the program was great. That's what we were doing with them.
Okay. Let's see. I have the notes that I wrote before, and then I have a bunch of little sticky notes that I've been writing on. The mention of partnerships. What other types of organizations do you have partnerships with in the community?
So we work with NAMI. We work with behavioral health organizations. Like in Beaver County, we work with Beaver County Behavioral Health. Also in Mercer County, we work with their behavioral health group. We train them to do our presentations. It's just that's a lot of the work that we do is partnering with mental health organizations and other healthcare organizations like UPMC. UPMC has actually been an incredible supporter of our events for a few years. And specifically, I work with Donna Pandulo at UPMC, and she's always a huge supporter, gets a huge team to the Pittsburgh Walk. And they've sponsored a number of our events, and they really help us get out into the community as well. So it's really about, again, talking to people and making sure they know that we're here and cultivating and growing those relationships. And yeah, that's where a lot of those connections come from.
Okay. Christine, do you have any questions?
I
feel
mean,
like I'm hogging.
I think you're doing great. Given that we have tens and tens of listeners, Jesse, you can impact each one of them right now. What do you think the most important piece of advice you would give somebody? So let's say like you feel like somebody in your life is struggling and needs a little bit of help, and you want to have a conversation with them. If you could give us like the cliff notes. How do I start that conversation? How do I have that conversation? It's so hard.
It can be just as simple as, are you okay? I've noticed you haven't been yourself recently. And maybe even saying, I've noticed this specifically. It doesn't seem like you've been wanting to go out, and whatever about the person, anything that kind of seems out of the norm. You can just say, I've noticed these things have been going on. Is there something you want to talk about? Is there anything that I can help with? And people shy away from this, and they shouldn't, but asking the question, if they're showing any of like the warning signs, and like we know about the risk factors, asking the question, are you thinking of taking your life? Ask the question. There are so many, are you having suicidal thoughts? Are you thinking about suicide? Because there are so many people who are scared to ask that question. They think asking the question is going to increase the risk. But in truth, it actually helps to decrease the risk, because now the conversation has started. And now you can hear what their answer is and get them to help if that's what's actually going on. And it might not be what's going on, but still might be something happening in their life that they would like to talk about. And now you've become that kind of open door, and they know that you're a safe person for them to talk to about these things and get them connected to any sort of help that they might need. People think it's going to put it in their head if you ask that question. It's not, if it's not already there. So it's not all of a sudden going to become the solution if it wasn't something, not the solution, but what they see is the solution if it wasn't already going on in their mind. And then just again I listen without judgment. Like I said, the intention is to understand, not to fix. Don't shame, blame, or guilt them for what they're doing or how they've been behaving. Don't gossip about them or anything like that. Just let them know that you're there to listen. You're talking to them privately, and then seeing what you can do to get them who they would be comfortable with talking with this more about, and where you can get those resources and how you can find that help. If they already have a therapist, encouraging them to make an appointment. So there are a lot of things that we can do, and just making sure that we're a part of their support system while taking care of ourselves, because that can be heavy to help somebody who's going through something difficult. But making sure that they know that we're like on the line. They can pick up a phone and call us, text us if that's what they need. So
I like that a lot. I find that we're often like whispering the word suicide, and I maybe think that we don't need to do that. I think the more that we can talk about it and say it out loud and give it a name to how we're feeling, the better we're going to be able to help our friends who need help, and the better we're going to be able to articulate what's going on with ourselves. And
and that's
there's just no shame in it at all.
No, and that's actually one of our programs. It's called Talk Saves Lives. So talking about this saves lives. And it just says it right there. And like you said, the shame, that stigma that surrounds having mental health conditions or having suicidal thoughts. We're battling against that stigma constantly, because there should be no stigma attached to it. Health is health. If we broke the arm, if we had the flu, we would go get help. It's physical health. This is mental health. Health is health. And one impacts the other. They overlap in so many ways. And if we're not taking care of one, then we're not taking care of both. And that's where we need to change the culture and the understanding about mental health, is that there's no weakness in getting help for it. There's no shame in getting help for it. There's strength in those things. And just encouraging and making it encouraging to get the help.
Yep, that's what we do every week.
Try to get ourselves
Tens and
help.
tens of listeners.
Hey, tens and tens is better than zero. Tens and
Zeros and
tens
zeros.
is, well,
And
like I
that's
said
what we always
earlier,
say.
even if you're just helping one person, it matters.
Right.
So
Yeah, every once in a while we'll get an email that's, hey, I started therapy because of you guys. And it's like, all right, we're going to keep doing it. It's like the game of golf.
exactly.
Like I do one thing right, and then I'll go back and play again. Although
Well, I'm happy you feel that way about golf. I do not.
yeah, I guess I
Nope.
shouldn't state that
No,
anymore.
thank
I haven't
you.
played in years.
More of a mini golfer.
Yeah, mini golf
Same.
is more my speed these days. Talking about self-help and taking care of yourself, you, I feel like probably see a lot, hear a lot just by way of your job and what you do. How do you make sure that your mental health is strong, that you are taking care of yourself?
I also see a therapist. I was seeing one before I got this job, and I continue to see one. So that's helpful. Strength in therapy, health in
Amen.
therapy. And then I have really good friends. I have a good support system within my friend circle who I know I can lean on, specifically, some more than others,
Right.
but I know that they're there if I need them, and that they'll help me. Family support as well. And then, so just again, that support network is really important. And then in terms of other things, I read, I go on now walks because my feet decided to hate running, and I bike, and I have a bike, and I go to kettlebell, and I actually made a new group of friends over the years from just going to kettlebell, and that's great. So that's a great community of people too. So there's so many different things that anyone can do, and those are the things that I do. I'm listening to whatever music I like that's either going to pump me up or just help me get the emotions out in any way that I need to.
Right.
I'm not super artistic, so I don't really find help with that. But I do love a good Lego set, and I put those together. If I had an infinite amount of money, I would have so many Lego sets. And I was really excited whenever Lego Ideas made the A-frame, because that is the house I would love to live in. I would love to live in an A-frame. I always do this A-frame house, but I don't have one yet. So maybe someday, but I will sit there with the television on and build my Lego sets. And I get really excited whenever new ones come out. So that's also like a therapeutic thing for me. I can look in so many different ways. People like to travel. I like to do that whenever I can, but Legos. So,
I know.
and Chris, I
I'm
saw you like,
Yep.
when Olivia went off to school and abandoned me and left me alone with just her father, I got super into the Legos. That's what I did. I was like, I'm going to make the Harry Potter castle, and then I'm going to build a dragon, and then I got the whole office set. Like,
yeah, it's great. I have the Harry Potter castle sitting right over here,
it's
and I'm saving up money to buy Gringotts right now. Yeah, I love putting them together. It's just something, unless you put it together wrong and then you got to tear it apart, and then that's frustrating. But
takes it the
like,
other way.
I know. Luckily, they give you like tools to help you
Right.
out.
Like, I need to get the Legos now.
Yes.
They're great. They're great.
Great gift for you to buy me for Christmas. Just
Yeah, I'll
saying.
just get two of
But I-
everyone. We'll do them together. We'll get a Lego podcast going.
I actually have a friend who does that. He buys 2 sets of the ones he wants, because one he plans to build, which he's never built, and one he plans to just keep in the box for maybe down the line if he ever wants to try and sell it. But he bought the Titanic one, and I think he might have 2 of them, and that's not a cheap set. And I was like, what are you going to do? Are you ever going to build it? Because if not,
I know a girl that'll
I'll do it.
Donate that to a friend.
Donate to that to a good cause, also known as Jesse. But yeah, I'm just there. That's one of the fun things that I like to do. It's my alone time. My husband bought me the tree house for Christmas years ago, and he said, "Can I help you put this together?" And I was like,
No.
"No, this is not a collaborative effort.
Yeah, no,
No,
absolutely
this is
not.
just me. I'll buy you your own, and you can put that together over there. But I'm good." So yeah.
Yeah, I think the most
No,
important
I'd like
thing there is that it's not the self-help and the making sure that you're okay is not, it's not one size fits all, that we have to find our own. And it's good to talk to other people to see what they do to get some ideas, but
Mhm.
ultimately we have to decide ourselves what's gonna help us move forward, I guess,
Yeah.
to put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
mean, we
any
say, we know what works best, and don't be afraid to try something new. So
right? Yeah, that's hard for me. It's hard for me, but I'll get there. I'll get there.
Sari,
Is there anything
I got
else
one
that
more
we
question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Jesse, I know we talked about this when we were on the phone the first time. There's the need to whisper the word suicide, right? Like we just see that all the time. How do you talk to someone who's been affected by it? How do you approach somebody who's lost someone who's been affected? I find that I always feel like, oh, I'm a pretend person who's been affected because I still have Olivia. And it's a challenge for me to find a way to show my support and show my sympathy and my empathy without being like, sorry, and then just immediately turning in and running away. Oh, and Sarah, you have your hand up?
Yeah. I just want to say I think this is a great question, and I can't wait for the answer, because it's something that, and I think it was on the walk day, or I'm making that up, but we talked with Jackie and Ed about how, like, at times
Mhm.
they'll be out in public and they'll see somebody in the grocery store, and that person will legit be like and run the other way. Maybe not that drastic, but people avoid.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
can we help people not avoid that?
Not avoid it. It is a good question. In my experience, just in this job, I'm not afraid to talk about it. And I think I like talking about my dad. I like talking about the silly things that he did, and even the really annoying things that he did.
Right.
And even on the walk day, it was raining. And I don't know if I talked to you guys about this beforehand, but I was like, every time if it's raining during something I need it to not rain for, I'm like, all right, Gary, like, let's get it together. We don't need it to rain today. I think us talking about it and being comfortable in that space is important. And it doesn't matter if you haven't experienced a loss, whatever has gone on in your life, Christine. When I went into a school a few years ago, I was doing a presentation with the students, and I do tell them about my connection. I don't go into detail, but I say this might be stuff you already know, and that's great, but it's good to have a reminder and just ways to talk to our people. This is what I got involved with this because I lost my dad and I didn't know how to have those conversations. So for the people in the room who don't know, that's what this is for. And it's a reminder for the people who do. And there was a student at the front of the room who was quiet. She wasn't really talking very much. But after I said that, she came up to me and she said, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad. My dad has had those thoughts and he attempted, and I was like, so is he okay? And she said, he's okay now. We got him help. And I was like, that's really great. I said, that's fantastic. And I'm really happy. And I was like, thank you for sharing that with me, because it's hard to talk. It's hard. Again, like you said, we whisper the word. It's behind closed doors. We don't know how people are going to react. But for me to hear that somebody's gotten the help, and that that didn't happen to them, they didn't experience what I experienced, that's good. That's a good thing, because I don't want people to have gone through this. I don't want people to have experienced that loss or that pain. To know that what we're telling people to go out there and do is working is really important. So just because these are things that we try to do to help people, but it's not 100% foolproof. It's not going to be like, yes, now that we've had these conversations, they're definitely going to be okay. We just want people to know that these are things they can try to do to help somebody, and to know that there are people out there getting the help and having those conversations and it's working is good to know. Because again, we don't want someone to experience this, and there's no shame in that either. There's no shame in any of it. So when people don't want to come up and talk to me about what's happened, or if I tell them what's happened and they all of a sudden shut down, it's not because of what happened to me. It's because they don't know how to process it or how to say the right thing. And I know that. And it's nothing against them either. It's just the way it goes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you do the best you can. You be as sympathetic as you can be, and you have to
Mhm.
understand that. And I think that the more we do talk about it, the less people will whisper it, and less people will look at it as like a weakness or something to be ashamed of. I think that's the whole goal of bringing it to the community and being able to talk about it, is that the more we hide it, the more we shove it behind a closed door, then the more it just festers, and
Mhm.
that doesn't do anybody any good. Yeah, I would just encourage people to get in touch with you, Jesse, and bring this stuff to light. There's nothing that's so hard and traumatic that we can't talk about it. And there's nothing
And
that's happened to people that we can't just go up and give them a little show of support. If you see these people at the grocery store, just know that they're not going to be freaked out because you turn around. They're used to seeing that, but they would also probably appreciate a, hey, I'm sorry about what happened.
they would, absolutely, especially when I was going through it early on. Nobody really knew how to talk to me. They didn't understand my grief process or why it was taking me the amount of time that it did, and still does. Honestly, it's still an ongoing process. But I had to realize that they don't know and they don't
Yeah.
understand. And if somebody wants to come up to me and say, I knew your dad, he was really great, that's great. And people who want to talk to me about their experiences or losses, I thank them for sharing their story, because their story is important. It's why why they're at the walk, why they're even having a conversation with me about this. So it's important for people to know that you appreciate them wanting to share in their vulnerability and in their experience. So it's good. Yeah,
Yeah, we're all in this together, guys.
we are.
Amen. Amen. And I'd say we just have to keep talking about it. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I did want to, first of all, is there anything else, Jesse, that you feel that we haven't covered about AFSP that you feel that our audience needs to know?
We do have, other than call us.
Yeah.
And we are here as a resource, and suicide prevention it's real and it does work. People out there want to have the conversations, and they hear people saying things, and sometimes they think it's just for attention, but give them that attention. AF is a great organization doing a lot of great work. We actually have a few other events coming up. We have International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. It's always a Saturday before American Thanksgiving. This year it's on November 23rd. And in Western PA, there are six sites happening. There's one in Pittsburgh. It's going to be in Moon Township. And then there's one in Erie. There's one in Ebensburg, so Cambria County. There's one in Butler, and there's one in St. Mary's, and there's one in Washington County as well. So these are events for loss survivors to come together for a free all day to have 6 to 7 hour event where they can connect with other loss survivors, have conversations, get some information and resources, and just prepare people for whatever it is that they need to prepare for, especially leading into the holiday season. That's one of the big things that we have going on in terms of AFSP events. And then, like I mentioned, the Lawrence County Walk is this coming Saturday, but yeah.
And as far as the walk goes, my husband and I attended the walk. Christine was sick, so she couldn't make it there. Boo.
I was sick.
Whatever.
But excuses.
Terrible. But it was a great event for us to attend. I'm very thankful that we attended, and I'm very thankful that my husband attended it with me. And just for our listeners and to spread, you don't have to be directly affected by suicide to participate in these events. And I highly suggest participating in them. I even more so suggest taking people who might not always be that comfortable talking about it, trying to get them in front of this, because my husband is one who's not really like a mental health kind of guy. I don't know how to explain it. He wasn't very interested in the podcast. That's just him. And thankfully he came with me to the walk. He talked to Jackie and Ed. And I feel like that made a big difference in his understanding, and maybe not even understanding, just even thinking about it. He had questions for me during the walk and things we saw, and he was encouraging me to go up and talk to people and tell them about the podcast when he had never even listened to it. And after the walk, he listened to the podcast. So he's all caught up. He's now a listener. So it's just my way of saying that you never know who you're going to touch by sharing stories and continuing to talk. And it might not even be someone who, I don't know. It's just get to the walks, get to these things when you can. Again, you don't have to be directly affected by suicide to participate in these things. And it was just a really eye-opening event. And I highly encourage people to get involved. So that's my spiel on the walks. So I thank you, Jesse, for putting on an awesome event and making a difference in my families. So thank you for all that you do. We're very appreciative of that. Christine, is there anything else that you have to say?
No, just thanks, Jesse. Yeah, let's keep talking. I think the more we talk, the better things get. And yeah, it just again encourage people to get in touch with Jesse. Let's get helpful hints on how we can have these conversations and do as many hands as we can.
For sure.
Exactly.
And I was just going to say, in our show notes, of course, Christine, you're in charge of those. Make sure that we put all of our links and all of that so everybody knows where to find all of this information that we've been talking about, of course. And I know, Jesse, I will probably be in contact myself trying to help get you guys more into our local community. I would love to be a part of that and help spread word around here and get information into the hands of fellow parents.
That's great. That's all we're always trying to do. And I'm glad you had a good experience at the walk. You said it's incredible. It's also almost, I don't want to say humbling, but it was a surprise from when I went to the walk the first time. Before it happened to me, it was just this periphery situation where you hear about it on TV or things like that. But until it actually, when it happened to me, then you almost see it everywhere and you hear about it everywhere. You're more attuned to it. And then being at the walk and just being surrounded by so many people who have been impacted by it. And yes, it is sad, but we also know that there's strength in community. That's what we need to focus on. We're all there walking towards a day where no one will die by suicide. And hopefully one day where the walks don't have to happen the way that they do. They can still be a place where we honor the ones we've lost, but we can also celebrate everyone who lived. That's what it is too, because people with lived experience do come down, and they are there because not because they've had a loss, but because they've had their own struggles. And it's a community of support for them as well. That's really important to know about the event and their supporters. So it's great. It's a great day. And it's one that we were really proud of to be able to provide to our community.
As you
So
should be, for sure. All right, Christine, if you don't have anything else, then we can go ahead and wrap up this episode of Bare Bones Banter with the Gaster Girls. I should have been, what is it?
A game host?
Yes, I was going to say Bob Barker, but yes, that's exactly it. It's exactly it.
Bob Barker, come on down.
Yeah, I think that should have been my job. I missed the boat. Damn it. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Jesse, if you want to stay on the line, we'll go ahead and just stop recording and then we'll say our goodbyes.